Welcome back into Weather Command. Taking a look into the Outer Banks, Carolina's Outer Banks, taking another beating, another lashing after a powerful nor'easter swiped the coast this past weekend. It comes as spots like Buxton and Rodanthe are already experiencing severe coastal erosion. It's something we've sadly seen year after year, and sadly another beach home that was claimed as a result of this storm.
As the Carolinas continue to battle a disappearing coastline, one Hatteras resident has been documenting the rapid erosion every step of the way, telling visual stories while bringing real-time awareness to the environmental conundrum.
Yeah, so let's welcome in Brooke Rosell, photographer and Outer Banks resident. Brooke, appreciate at least your perspective and I guess walking us through when we see it on camera, I'll tell you what, it is quite something to see a big home taken away, carried away by the ocean. But to see it firsthand, can you kind of walk us through how this played out over the weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. It is, of course, these images of homes falling in, all of the flooding, it is very shocking. And, you know, we saw so much more of it this fall with the hurricanes and the storms that we had then. This is really the first bigger swell event that we've had since the fall. So we really just weren't sure what to expect. We were all hoping to make it through the storm without losing another home, you know, because we're in the process of chatting about what are some short-term solutions that help us kind of build sustainably towards the future. So yeah, we were hoping we wouldn't lose another house, but yeah, that is what happened. So.
Wow, it must be you know, a terrifying thing to even be watching happening to your community. Can you speak to the overall threat of coastal erosion and how has it affected your community and how you've noticed it evolve since you kind of began documenting it?
Yeah, well, I will say it's two sides of the coin when you talk about living on Hatteras Island, because in, you know, a lot of the images where you see the houses falling, a lot of that destruction that is in Buxton. And, you know, there is this one stretch of coastline that is more of a threat to, you know, coastal erosion and all of that. And it's very hard because we're out of control of it. You know, I think there have been, you know, incredible community efforts of people organizing and, you know, trying to work with lawmakers and representatives to help us get the support and resources that we need to protect our island and our community. And then the other side of the coin is, you know, life on Hatteras. The storm passes, the sun comes out, you know, we reassess, we pick up and we keep moving. You know, like yesterday after the storm passed, there was snow on the ground, there was still, you know, some tide on the roads, but it was such a beautiful sunset. And so it's like these two things exist at one time. And so it's just a really interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, it's winter storms can be so aggressive. I made a very similar comment in regards to the ice storm that we watched played out for portions of the southeast just a week ago, right? This very dangerous phenomenon, but it's yet so pretty. So that juxtaposition. Looking at the beach, it is a national seashore, so I know that there's probably going to be some oversight, and there usually is. Have you been back to see with the cleanup that because these homes get washed in, you generally have to wait we just had a full moon, you have to wait for the tide to go down, you have to wait for the waves to be less aggressive. Have you gone back to see how the shore is doing in terms of the debris?
Right. So since the house fell yesterday, no, I have not. But over the course of the winter and, you know, all of the houses that fell in this fall, this winter, I have been back. And it's been a really cool effort because, you know, we have, I mean, not cool, but it's just been a very collective effort. You know, the Park Service has been doing a lot. There's just constant, you know, movement and production. There's a lot of moving parts. And honestly, I'm not up on, you know, the entire plan and all of that. But I will say I've been so impressed by our community and the people who are organizing to just be loud about helping us get resources that we need and, you know, educating the general public as well as, you know, why things are happening the way that they are, because it's just a very tricky and unique situation.
Yeah, definitely a very unique situation. And, you know, even looking back, I mean, since 2020, 28 homes have collapsed. In 2025, 16 homes alone just that year. Devastating. And I'm curious for you, how does this past storm kind of compare to the other storms that you've watched these homes collapse in the Outer Banks?
Right. I mean, this one was certainly different because it had the snow element. None of us really knew what to expect. We were jokingly calling it a snowicane because it had the hurricane winds and then, of course, the snowfall. Hatteras Island was actually the last little like strip that got snow. In fact, I wasn't even sure that we were going to get it. But I would say that nor'easter wise, it did, wind wise, wave wise, it did pretty much exactly, as was forecasted. We got the soundside flooding, we got the ocean overwash, and unfortunately Buxton is so vulnerable right now with the erosion. And so of course that played out how we all saw. But, I think that nor'easters can honestly be worse than hurricanes in a lot of ways because of the winds and the waves that come with it and the way that they affect our island.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the photos that you've taken coming out of this, they're heartbreaking, devastating, but also, it shows what's happening into that community. Yeah. So it's so fabulous. So thank you again for joining us again. That's Brooke Rosell, photographer and Outer Banks resident. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.